Well, here it is, the MSI Pro Z690A. We've unboxed it, and now it's time to take a look exactly at what this budget MSI motherboard has to offer. And I gotta say that apart from just looking real good, this board is quite the treat, especially for the price. This is one of MSI's more budget offerings for Z690. However, don't take that the wrong way, because even though it's a budget board, it does so many things right, it's insane. For example, just take a look at its PCIe expandability. It has 3 16NAC slots, along with a brand new Gen 5 one that comes with Z690, here marked out by being silver compared to black. Then add to that a 1X slot and 4 M.2 slots. The expandability on this thing is quite insane for the price. But while 4 M.2 slots is kind of becoming the standard on motherboards, even more budget ones, some companies, Gigabyte, are forgetting that PCIe 1X slots are still rather important. So it's nice to see that MSI remembered to put at least one in here. So with that super fast Gen 5 slot, that 1X slot, and the 2 extra physical 16X but electrical 4X slots, you have pretty much all the expandability you could need. And don't worry, the fun with this motherboard doesn't end there. Can a motherboard even be fun? Oh, this one certainly is. Or maybe I'm just that sad that I find motherboards fun when no one else does. Moving on to CPU power delivery, it's also rather impressive for the price, because this provides 2 8 pins of power to the CPU. Again, something you don't see that often at this kind of price point. And while it's 14 55 amp phases going to the CPU, and then 2 additional ones, one going to the integrated GPU and one going to the memory controller, while that isn't the most amazing combo in the world, it should in theory be able to drive even some of the most high-end, Alder Lake-based Intel CPUs. And if you're running something more budget, then this thing should still give you plenty of room for solid overclocking. Now, of course, one other thing to consider about VRMs is how well they're cooled, because that's something that can really impact performance and also your overclocking potential. And while on the surface, it doesn't look like these are cooled really well, because if you just look under the metal shroud that covers them, wow, there's a lot of empty space there that could have been filled with even more cooling, so I wasn't expecting too much when it comes to the VRM temps. Not terrible, but not great either. But I was pleasantly surprised. So let's run some Cinebench and see exactly how well these VRM coolers hold up. And they actually hold up rather well. As you can see right here, running over 12600K, the increase in temperature every single run really isn't all that terrible, and overall the temperatures are super manageable. Unless you just have a horribly ventilated case, then any kind of thermal issues and loss of performance should be on the CPU side rather than the VRM side. And this is reflected in the results, because as you can see here, we aren't losing any performance whatsoever with every run, with all the scores being within the margin of error. So far, so good. And we haven't even got into the rear I/O yet, which is also impressive. Firstly, for integrated graphics, you have both DisplayPort and HDMI, which is going to be especially useful seeing how, let's be honest, most of us still can't find a graphics card at MSRP. Oh, and by the way, if you are interested in Intel Alder Lake's integrated graphics performance, then make sure to check out my video up in the iCards talking about 12600K and its iGPU. You definitely don't want to miss that video if you're planning on getting the 12600K. Shameless self-promotion aside, the rear I/O also offers us a whopping 7 USB Type-A ports. And still, it may not be as much as the Aorus lineup, which boasts 9 USB Type-A ports, but still should be enough for most people. Plus, the addition of a USB Type-C port and 2.5 GB LAN is also great to see here. And I absolutely love that those things are now pretty much a standard in motherboards. Oh, and for backwards compatibility, you even get a cute little PS2 port up there for the 1 or 2 people who still use that. And then we get onto the audio, which is a bit more of a mixed bag. MSI, what happened here? Did one of the engineers fall asleep? While the onboard audio does sound pretty great, the main issue is with the connectors, seeing how you have no optical audio for some reason. 5 standard audio jacks and 1 SPDIF has been the norm for over a decade, if not longer. Why on earth are these companies trying to reinvent the wheel now, when the system has worked great for ages? But seeing how you have the one handy 1X slot on this motherboard, you'll be able to install a sound card if you really need optical audio. So that's all the external connections taken care of. Now let's move on to internal ones. And that's also a pretty strong area for this board, especially for a budget one. That's mainly due to the fact that you have 8 CPU fan headers in total for this thing. That means you could be running up to 8 fans, pumps, anything like that on this motherboard with no need to purchase external hubs for connecting with more fans. That is something that could potentially save you quite a bit of money in the future, seeing how a lot of those hubs aren't cheap. Add to that 6 SATA connectors, a front USB Type-C connector, and a lot of other stuff. It is truly amazing how much you managed to squeeze in. And pretty much the only issue I have when it comes to internal connectors is for the RGB. Yes, I know RGB, not everyone cares, yada yada, but be quiet, because this could really help you out. Because for whatever reason, MSI have a weird naming scheme for the RGB connectors, because the standard 4-pin is labeled JRGB, while addressable RGB connectors, the 3-pin ones, are labeled J-Rainbow. I guess because, you know, they're addressables, so you can make like rainbow patterns or whatever, but most people just call them ARGB ports, as to not confuse consumers, you know? So if you're struggling to find the ARGB connector on the motherboard, just remember that MSI just got drunk and decided to label them J-Rainbow instead. But while you may not need a fan hub with this motherboard, you may need an RGB hub depending on how rainbow happy you are, because there's only one 4-pin RGB port and 2 ARGB, okay, yeah, whatever, 2 J-Rainbow connectors on this motherboard, so an RGB hub may be needed. However, none of those tiny gripes I just had should overshadow the fact that for its price, this is still an amazing motherboard, and you can get it in both DDR4 or DDR5, and also either with Wi-Fi or without Wi-Fi for both of those, so you definitely find a Pro Z690A that will fit your needs exactly. So you really do get a lot here, and all of that for a price that really isn't that outlandish for Z690. I just cannot stress enough how good of a deal this motherboard can be, but if you want to know exactly how well this compares against other Z690 boards, then make sure to check out our entire Z690 playlist, which is going to be up in the iCards, because we compare a lot of different Z690 boards here on this channel. And if you want to buy this motherboard yourself, it's going to be up in the iCards and also down in the video description below. Also down there, you're going to find our merch store. We have tons of awesome designs, including this motherboard one, what a coincidence, and also our Patreon, because even if you just give the channel one singular dollar a month, it truly goes a long way in helping me make way better videos, along with videos on way more interesting topics. It truly does go a long way and help my channel, while you get tons of great perks for being so awesome. I'd also love to thank my existing patrons, Gavin Burns, Ryan, AKB, Meg Sumner, Shane Allcroft, Lansby, and Come and Get Your Clothing. Thank you guys so much, support truly goes a long way. Down there, you're also going to find our Discord server if you want to talk to me or others like this or whatever else really. Plus, down there, the social media links as well. But anyway, that's what it's. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then remember to subscribe, like, whatever, and I'll see you all in whatever I make next. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.